Ocho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe chinle yarngoda pelge drolo ratsam pande la me shabla solwa de Om a guru vajra Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajrad Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishas Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishas Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishas Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sungi Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Nyingne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yela Sambe Dudun Malupa Geme Lhungi Drubra Chingi Lo Tsoni Sodan Dikdun Shakpe Tse Dungi namke yin so lekshune alabchens Chera nyetun chanwara chingi lo chancho parge nyinsen tukuntu Nyu peme siudro lekshune chancho drube gegen kunshishi Tungen de la drubra chingi lo dagi lo na chola chokpat Chemin samchur ngemba shiwada Chedan tumbe dedun malupa beme lhungi drupra chingilo dorna tingne tsera tamchedan techi pardu nekab rese kyamne lama kele me tukche chingi dala sikso so gongyab drewe nyamda dachala chetsun lame tuje rabgongne Kodan sunge nawa dralme tu nyamsu nyongwe kesan toprash Kewa kuntu yanda lama dan drame chiki pela longche chi Sadan lamge yunde rabzone dorje change kopa nyur tobu sho Pakyuke kudan dagi alu Pakyuke sundan dagi anga Pakyuke tukdan dagi yi Ten yerme chiktu chingi alu Makyuke kudan Dagi alu makyuke sundan dagi nga makyuke tukdan dagi yi ten yerme chiktu chingi alu Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Chodan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sange Drupar Sho Sange Chodan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sange Drupar Sho Sange Chodan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sange Drupar Sho.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Good morning. For me, it's a great pleasure to be here in the Gompa after uh, spending about a month in Tibet. But before that, I was 2 or 3 weeks in Brazil, and a little bit joking, I said, I mean, it had been said in the uh, I'd said it in the past, but I had forgotten. Um, we say like if you want to do something, it's better really not to say it, because I had said that I really wanted to travel and look at this, um, and I could see that. I thought, well, when you try to program things so much, you often end up, the opposite ends up happening. But today I wanted to share some things with you, because when there's any kind of trip, and in this case a trip, when any kind of experience, in this case a trip, there are many aspects, external aspects. When the great masters, when they wrote their biographies, there there's an external biography, an external one. I did this, I did that, I met this person, that person, what people can actually observe. And then there's an inner biography, like how that person lived those experiences inside. Oh, in that, I was there in that moment, but how did I live it? And then there's the secret biography that normally is only published after the person's death, that talks about the inner realizations and what happens on a deeper level. Coming back today from this trip, on the external aspects of the trip, I can talk about, um, but that's not so interesting. Instead, the inside aspects, what happened inside, I'd like to share 2 or 3 points. I mean, it was very interesting to go back and find, to meet people that I was very close to for a long time. Um, it's been about 8 years since I'd been back to Tibet, so it was very important to recreate this bond, especially after Lama Ganshin left his body. It's important to maintain these connections. And one of the things I was able to see, that's very important, something I was able to feel, is the importance of going to sacred places. There's a kind of proverb that says, more than a proverb, it's actually a passage of a text that says, when when you study and you don't have results, when you meditate and you don't have results, when you pray and you don't have results, basically when you do everything and you don't have any result, go on a pilgrimage. And there's this concept, this idea that a being can bless another being, a being can bless a place, and a place can bless a person, a being. And I had this great opportunity to go to places that are externally are beautiful, but nothing extraordinary, but a very special power of transformation. And I've been to places that externally were amazing, even newly constructed temples that are amazing, new, enormous, but give a little bit that sensation to be in a kind of Disney world where you go there, but there's the external part, but there's some kind of essence that missing, or it doesn't have that effect on us. One of the most important moments for me was as if going to a place I'd like to take everyone when we can travel again together, together again as a group in Tibet. And for me, it was the first time. It was the monastery of Gyalwa Ensapa. Gyalwa Ensapa was one of the most important masters in our tradition. In this monastery, small but very special, there's one statue of Kedrip Sangha Yeshe, who was the master of Panchen Lama, and aesthetically it was a beautiful statue, nothing so special on an artistic point of view, from an artistic point of view. But I was in front of the statue and I couldn't move, and it wasn't it wasn't a very practical moment, let's just say like that. I really, tears welled up and I was just frozen there. It touched me deeply, that place. And then they told me that statue is, um, it, I, I was told that when the great master um, passed away, his remains were placed in inside this statue. So these are places that we go there, and they have this power to move something inside you. In Italy, for example, it can be similar. I've been twice to the crypt of Saint Francis in Assisi. There's a similar. How are these places created? When there are people who have very special characteristics and deep love, wisdom, and a level of peace, and they're able to transmit that. They transmit that to the place, to the objects, and they're able to transmit their own energy, their own characteristics. And so even when they are not physically present, the place and the objects still are able to transmit their energy. And it's the importance of going to these holy places. It's said that taking a pilgrimage is like watering the seeds of our potential. And it depends on the seeds that we have. But when we have a predisposition, we have a connection to a place, to a tradition, to someone, going to certain places helps flourish, flower, sprout our what we have inside. And I was reflecting and that when these places have their real energy, and then they live difficult experiences because this monastery and all the others, I mean, they all experience the Cultural Revolution and very, very difficult situations. But when you go to these places, the energy is still intact. And this is good news for everyone. It's there. We can go there. And it's very important to have sacred places, holy places. Many times, Lama Ganchen said that we need to create our own holy places because we don't know how long we'll be able to go to travel to go to these places. So it's really important to have places of transformation, and there are places like this out there. And there's something also important to remember. It's said that when you take a pilgrimage, when you go on a pilgrimage, I went to the monastery of Tashi Lhunpo, for example. The monastery of Tashi Lhunpo is marvelous. It's magic. It's a magic place. I studied there for many years, and I, when I would go there to study, the one feeling that I would always have is a little strange. I would sleep just outside the monastery. There was the small hotel of the monastery because I wasn't able to sleep inside the monastery. And every morning that I would enter there, it felt magical. And when I was inside the walls of the monastery, I wanted to meditate, to study the Dharma. I mean, these are just spontaneous feelings. And then when I would go out, I mean, we're talking about like 80 meters, then I could feel the change as if I needed to put more effort to do those things. Tashi Lhunpo is such a special place, and among all the holy places, it's said that among all the pilgrimages that one can take, the holiest of places is where your master is found. And we had the great luck to find one of my masters. Nakchen Rinpoche is the master of the Tantric College of Tashi Lhunpo, and from whom I received many initiations, empowerments. And it was an experience, how can I say it? I mean, being in the presence of someone who manifests stability, love, and wisdom, as this deep, profound stability. Everyone who went in there, they, just with his presence, they were really able to shape those who came in, and this, it's something for us to remember that when we live something that's difficult, a loss. A few years ago, one of my masters in Tibet left his body. It's important for us to allow ourselves to feel those emotions, that sadness. Sometimes it's hard to even give a name to it, but there is that sense of loss when someone that we cared for is no longer there. So it's important to come into contact and live those feelings. And it was really unexpected reaction that I had is when I got into one of the rooms where I had received many teachings from this master who left his body a few years ago. I just burst out crying, and that's beautiful. We shouldn't feel sad about that. We need to allow ourselves to feel that. Because sometimes things happen and we can't live that experience to the fullest. But then when we have the conditions to elaborate on a non-conceptual level this feeling, then we're able to unblock everything in those feelings. So an important moment for me um, um, was was to be able to live the loss of my teacher, who was the abbot of Tashi Lhunpo. It lasted 20 minutes. This space was really important for me. This really stayed with me. I wasn't expecting to have this reaction. I felt like, oh, okay, I accepted it. I was full of great gratitude. But then I saw how important it is for us to go to certain places, live, live, live experiences that really spark a reaction. It's not sadness, it's not anger. I mean, there's no specific word, but it's like something that was a little blocked that then comes out, and then once it's out, there's this release. And this is important because sometimes we stay blocked in different situations. And sometimes when we have these blocks, we're afraid to come into contact, come into contact with things that could awaken these feelings. There's a Tibetan proverb that says, "Tunginang, tunginang el punesta," something like that, that says, pain, the pain of the tumchin, it's like thigh bone, that trumpet that makes that long trumpet that makes that very deep sound. The pain of the trumpet, it passes when it's blown, which means if there's something that's blocked inside, once it's outside. Sometimes you verbalize it, sometimes you don't need to verbalize it, but it's important to allow yourselves to experience it without justifying, without giving it a name. Oh, I felt like this because of this or that. No, simply allow ourselves to feel, to what stayed there blocked, just let it out. I think that many of us, to not say all of us, we have things that we have lived, that we haven't completely gone full circle on it. Maybe they've stayed a little bit blocked inside. It's important instead to allow ourselves to go to these places, find these conditions, to find this release. And I wanted to remember this aspect. And this is kind of part of the internal aspects of an experience, or secret aspects of an experience. At the same time, another aspect that's important is what determines a place to be holy. What creates this is not the place itself. I mean, there's also true, because all these holy places, if you go to see, they're places that were chosen also because of their like natural characteristics, not for the beauty, but the characteristics, the harmony among elements to create the right conditions to then create such a holy place. So normally these monasteries were places where these masters had passed many times, or had visions in that place. So there's the monastery of Tashi Lhunpo, for example. We use this word feng shui in Italian. I don't know if there, or in English, I don't know if there's an equivalent, but you can see the feng shui of Tashi Lhunpo is very special. But other monasteries were founded on the basis of visions. Um, the, for example, the mount by Galwigendan Drup had the vision of Tara instead of the mountain, and there actually, if you see behind the monastery of Tashi Lhunpo, there you can there's there are the three large rocks on the mountain that represent the face and the two breasts of Tara, and the monastery is like on the lap of Tara, according to this view, that the vision that was had. Albagnano too. If we look at Feng Shui, it has all the characteristics: the mountain behind, the two rivers, the lake in front, and something also that's interesting that I observed on this trip is that the most important monasteries, ancient and important, like the holy mountain of Samantabhadra, the, they all have a water spring. It's always a spring that's special, a healing spring. So either the temple was built built where there was already a source, a water source, a spring, or did something special, to bring the water there, like um, the story of Ganshin, or the monastery of Gyalwe and Ensapa, who took a hammer, and he just hit the ground, and a spring just spontaneously came out. So there is this characteristic of finding places with the right characteristics. And we observed these places that for centuries and centuries are places of practice and the upholding of the Dharma. And here you can see that we have all the characteristics, the external physical ones too, the environmental ones, and it's not at all obvious to have such things. At the same time, what blesses a place are the beings who live therein. So is the importance of the practice, of the harmony among us, of reconnecting with our objectives and never letting go, never losing sight of why we're here. And this is part of our inner trip, our inner voyage. Many things went well as programmed. Some things went really badly. I mean, nothing dramatic, but some things we were able to do, some things we weren't able to do. How can I say? One interesting experience that I had that could be interesting for all of us is that when we we put energy in a certain program, we have an expectation that things are going to go as we program them, and we do everything to make it like that. And if things don't go as planned and we're able to understand why and we can accept that, that's fine. But when things don't go the way we've planned, and at the same time we're not able to understand why, or we don't agree with the why, normally that creates an inner sensation of malaise, aversion, of tension. It's not something obvious that we face. And since from day one, I put into my head, I set my objectives, but let's go sailing. Let's adapt to the waters and the winds and the currents that we find. And it was like that. And so beautiful things happened that weren't planned, foreseen, and other important things that we planned, that that we weren't able to do without getting into all the details. But what's important is to not lose the clarity of why we're doing what we're doing, our objective, and at the same time, stay open to discovery. Stay open to, you know, when things happen differently from the objective that we planned, if we allow ourselves, actually a whole world opens up that before wasn't that didn't exist. So what can I learn? What are the situations that are happening? Okay, this is happening and I hadn't planned it. What opportunities is it showing it? What can I understand? What's the message that I can perceive? And I saw, for example, there were things, and now we get onto the secret level. And it's not even the moment to share this, or I'm not going to share everything, but I saw very clearly, strongly, very clearly, and I never imagined it, but I was able to see and understand this. I understand something that don't need to share because something didn't go as planned, and in that moment I had this clarity. So we really need to just go with the flow, set our objective. Obviously we need to organize ourselves, do everything that's necessary to plan, but at the same time stay firm, be clear about our objective. Where am I going long term? And then we adapt to what comes. It's like saying I have clarity of where I want to go, and I start on my way, and then there's some kind of detour. There's a block. Then I need to take another way. The danger that happens often is we stay very focused on the immediate things, on programs that we set. I need to do this, and then this needs to happen, then that needs to happen, and we put these things that are structured and programmed, put this all in front of us, and when things don't go as planned, what happens? If we're attached and grasping at how things are supposed to go, even small, simple things, then we can easily lose our greater objective. There's a proverb that I heard. It says, it's a little bit strong as an image, but it gives the idea. It's like if you're giving a child a bath. It's like, so the proverb is to toss out the baby with the bath water. Throw out the baby with the bath water, we say in English. It's like when it can be like when a situation, when someone is not well, and then you throw away a greater objective because you don't want to face that situation. I don't know if that's clear. So it's important for us to go back often, to ask ourselves, what am I doing in this lifetime? Really, in this life that I have, and soon I'm going to die. I don't know what's going to happen, but in the meantime, between today and my death, what am I doing? Where do I want to go, really? And when we have clarity about this, we're able to go back and nourish this view in a clear way. And so even when the difficulties of daily life come out, one is able to face them all. And So it means also adapting and opening ourselves up to other possibilities. In these days, it was very clear, many aspects are very clear, this importance of adapting to what comes, adapting to, and also not judging from, how can I say, okay, respect that we have a view of how things are going, that I have a judgment, but with the awareness that my judgment is my point of view, it's not reality. I have my judgment that comes from my culture, my experiences, my knowledge, etc. But my judgment is a part of a reality. And the person on the other side has his judgment that's based on everything that he's brought to the table. And so it's like dancing together. So we say, this is my view, this is yours. So, okay, it's it's up to you, up to you, up to you. And then maybe at some point then it's my turn, or maybe it's never my turn. Um, but what's important is that I need to be able to adapt myself to situations and people and choices and what's around me without losing sight of where I'm going, without losing sight of the why. Otherwise, in the first difficulties, the first, second, third, we abandon, we let it go. We give up. I see this in the previous generations, the older generations that are, let's say, from my grandparents and past. They have a resilience and an ability to maintain their objectives that is real steadfast. This is something we need to learn from them. Even speaking to friends from Brazil before in that previous trip, the two different contexts for people one who was working. One who is an owner of a great, of a very big company, and the other one is a manager, and they both said the same thing about the problems with the young people coming to work who are well educated, they earn well. One company, I know it very well. They really do the best possible for their employees within the working hours. If you want, you can go. You can meditate. There's actually a guided meditation. There are Pilates. There's so many things to help the employees. And they were saying that the younger generation, those who start working from like 18 to 25 years old, their level of resilience is minimum, and also their commitment to working is minimum. So one day, so as soon as there's some kind of difficulty, then they give up. If they have to work harder one day, then the next day they just said, oh, I can't do it anymore. And they asked why. It's because we're living in a world where and we see someone, when we see someone who is raised in this context, their reality becomes that. Those who So it's different when someone is born in this context. I mean, we're living in a time where their objective is to have fun, or having what I want as I want it when I want it. And in this way, we're losing more and more this view that of what goes beyond this moment, what transcends this moment, For example, I go to work, I'm part of a project, I'm part of a group, I have an obligation, but this means that there's also something, I have an objective that goes beyond my personal objective. And this is lacking more and more today. It's not that it's lacking in the younger generations. The point is that the younger generation, they were raised in this context, but on a general level, it's missing. And when there's something important that is missing, the other extreme, we 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 can also recreate an extreme on the other side. Like today, there's an enormous amount of people, young people, who are living for themselves without any kind without with w- So those who live completely like in following an individualistic idea without their family, without a religion, without society or work, and then on the other hand, extremists. Um, so I've seen that those in our tradition, those who were able to keep this tradition alive are those who were able to really go beyond themselves and really connected to what transcended their just themselves. I mean, and they lived horrendous things during the Cultural Revolution, for example. You see the strength that comes from believing in something and the ability to face things. I mean, we're not in any kind of extreme situation, so it's important for us to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what am I here because I want this, that, and the other? Do I want my pleasures? Am I able to have a view that transcends the I and the my? This is something that I think is absolutely necessary, because we're really seeing more and more the effect of not having this. At the end of the day, there's a greater level of a sense of loneliness, because on the other because on the what goes against the loneliness is sharing a common goal. Often one feels lonely not because they don't have anyone to talk to or they don't have anyone to see. Loneliness comes mostly when we don't have a shared collective objective. When we feel like we're not part of something. And the lifestyle of late takes us to this non-belonging. I mean, those also who cheer and support this non-belonging. So the importance of a feeling that we belong is very healthy. And when I remember I was in front of the statue of Kedrup Sangha Yeshe, and it's very strange. Often you don't have much explanation. I've never read much from him. I knew that he was the master of Panchen Lama, but I remember the first time I heard his name, something moved inside. This feeling of belonging to what we call a lineage, a tradition, a spiritual family. This goes beyond words, and these are one of the beautiful experiences. You go on the other side of the world, you meet people who are part of a completely different culture and lifestyle, but you feel are that you share something, that you belong to the same family. So I reflected on this in these days, really that we need to reinforce this belonging, the belonging to this spiritual family, this lineage, which does not mean that we're better than others. It's not because I'm it's not because I'm on the pink team that I'm better than the blue team. And in one of the last days we were at lunch because I was also this world the world um, the Buddhist World Forum. I brought the picture here, and there were about 1,000 people. And something that was interesting, I mean, from all different Buddhist traditions from all over the world. And it was interesting to see that at the beginning, there's this situation, this feeling of you are not the same as me. There's a little bit of a distance. There's formality, one smiles, but that obviously, because of course my tradition is better than yours. Obviously, the way I do is better than the way you do. For me, which doesn't mean that in the absolute it's the best. And what they did during this forum, which was interesting, this after these 3 days, this enormous, they organized a day, like a kind of like a kind of school trip. So we were broken up um, into different destinations. And so I was there on a little school trip. At first I thought, no, a trip. Okay, let's go. And uh, and I've always had a kind of aversion to, you know, you know, where there's the little flag, that what the guide leading you with the little flag, and and but they weren't little flags. They were huge buses. I was bus number 2, and then you have the little headset. But at a certain point, I was there at lunch at a table. The only I was the only There was the abbot of this monastery, and then there were many monks and nuns from Taiwan. And next to me there was a Tibetan monk, so the only one who didn't speak only Chinese. It's true, at lunch we don't talk a lot, so you don't need to be chatting. You eat quietly and in silence. But at a certain point, we exchanged some words. This was a, a lama from a great Nyingmapa monastery in Tibet in the Kham region. It's the White Throne is the name of the monastery, Chikakompa. And it was interesting to see how just simply being together at the table, and eating together, going on a trip together, to laugh together, to see the beauty of something together, find the common ground, and you sit down and you exchange 2 words. That creates closeness, and we need this. We need more and more. I mean, we have this tendency to put distance. Others are different. I'm Gelupa, he's Nyingmapa. Instead, no, we're here very close with many more things in common than what was different. But simply just being together, look at each other, exchange a few words. It's strange because just with this, we we didn't speak we didn't speak much, but at the end, really, we felt like we were friends. And this is something I also saw the importance of this the field trip. Um, to do things that maybe apparently don't seem like to have um, much much use, much sense. But even just melting, getting beyond this formality is really important so that we can connect on a human level with each other. This is fundamental so that we can go beyond judgment. It's interesting to see that we have this tendency to project ourselves within our group, and difficult to go with others, to open up and to share. But it's important to go beyond this. And when and so I I I think that they should do more field trips, and then have not at the end, and so here, this is the first time I saw every person af- at this Congress. Everyone had 8 minutes to speak. So after 6 minutes, there was a card that says you have 2 minutes, and then after the 8 minutes, they 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 rang the gong, and then everyone just started clapping. So many people were in the middle of what they were talking about when they were cut off. So it's said that the Swiss are precise with as precise as a clock, but they were even more. So coming back to us, here we are in Albagnano. This we're growing. We're still at the moment of growing. It's so beautiful. We're really expanding and growing. And instead, when you look the all these holy places, they're either trying just to keep it all running, or it's a moment of degradation. But if we look at ourselves, I'd say that we're like pre-teens, pre-adolescents, and with all the difficulties connected to that, and beautiful things connected to that. But we can't lose touch with why we're here, and we're here because, how can I say? At the end of the day, the only thing that is really, really important is the Dharma. And what do I mean with this? Nothing wrong with medicine and all the wonderful things in the world, but when we look at what we're living, even on a geopolitical level, this is not an easy time. It's a moment in I mean, the certainties that we used to have, we don't have them anymore. In the last decade, we created this view. In the last decades, we had these solid principles that seemed shared by everyone, and then it just fell down like a like a house of cards. And principles like human rights, for example. And I don't want to get into this, but at the end of the day, the beautiful things and horrible things, where do they come from? They come from the mind of beings. And they come from feelings. And the most important thing at the end of the day is to have contexts that help us develop our love and our wisdom and our gratitude and respect and peace. And this is why we're here. And I don't mean to say with this that only the Gelugpa, the Nalso Gelugpa Buddhist tradition can do this. No, there's so many other traditions with different names, different colors. I'm convinced there are thousands of different ways to practice the Dharma that transcends religion itself. But we have this opportunity, and our role here is to cultivate within love for ourselves, first of all. A term that I invented in this trip in Brazil, which is which would be the first step to practice this to practice the Dharma, this tradition. Well, it would be to be a healthy, selfish person. Because what does that mean? If we love ourselves, and to be a healthy, selfish person, we need to abandon what is bad for us and cultivate what is good for us. And then if we do that and see that others also are interested in their happiness and generate love for others, and also and have a coherent view of what reality is. You know, this is a huge challenge to organize, to live harmoniously, to get it all working together. But our objective is to cultivate these three things within. So I brought these two books here. It's extraordinary. And I just tell you very quickly the story. The fifth Dalai Lama, talking, I don't know, the fifth Dalai Lama, maybe 300 years ago, about. So the fifth Dalai Lama had a special characteristic. He had united all of Tibet under one. It had been many small kingdoms, and he united them all under one. And when he passed away, there was his regent, Desi Sangha Gyatsen, and Desi Sangha Gyatsen, he was afraid that if the people heard about the death of the fifth Dalai Lama, then he thought that everything would turn chaotic, that there wasn't enough stability. So he kept secret the passing of the fifth Dalai Lama. So he put someone who looked like him there, dressed like him, and then he told everyone he was on retreat, like like when I wanted to see someone this time. I wanted to see someone. They told me he was on retreat. I had spoken to him the day before on the phone, but anyway. So this is common to say he's on retreat. If someone would come from outside, if someone important from outside would come, they would put this man here to represent him. So the sixth Dalai Lama was formally recognized. When he was 20 years old. But one of the important things of his Geshe Sangha Desen, he united all these kingdoms, and all of these aspects he was really flourished of medicine So he took um, the greatest scholars of the time, and he had them write down all of their knowledge about art and medicine, astrology, etc. And the so the astrological texts um, that exist today are all based on what he had written at that time. So the main basic test, and if you read those, it'll tell you, okay, at this point, make reference to the volume of the sun, and then there are two volumes. If there are two volumes, you'll have the son and the daughter volumes. So they were many great scholars. There were great scholars that got together um, to see if there actually was this reference. At a certain point, there was at a certain point a great scholar who was also in charge of the library of the Potala. He went to see that many books were like hidden and were just left there. So he kept he kept he kept many books with a restricted access, which is quite common in Tibet, like the great masters Gyawa and Ensapa, Gyaltsen. There would be one volume, after everything they wrote, and then there would be one volume which would be restricted access, like printed once every 12 years, and the number of copies decided by the Panchen Lama himself. And in the case of astrology, what happened was this sun volume, which is seen to have all the key points. It was it's it's it, in the potala in the library. There was a piece of paper on top of it, and it says restricted access. And then if you want to read this book, you have to write after all the permissions, you write your name. And so what happened? No one ever opened it. And so this is the book I have in my hands now. So this master, he took all the books that were with this restricted access, and he made them public. There are about 130 uh, books, and I didn't bring all 130. They wouldn't fit in my bag, but we will bring them by cargo for our library. And as for good for auspiciousness, I brought these two because they're quite rare. The problem is that that it's this book is this book has been published very recently, and now the scholars, the astrologers in Tibet are picking up this book, and they're picking them up, and they're not understanding what's in it, and they need to really study to try to decipher what's written. And this is something that's happening now. These other two books, these are actually the blue one has to do with astrology, and the green one has to do with Tibetan medicine. And it's the 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 list of all the new books that are available. And to buy these books, you need the permit from the director of the astrology and medicine of Lhasa, in this, because that's the headquarters, let's say. They still use the book that I made as reference. And years ago, I made I made a book with all the with all the w- with all the astrological you know. So when they create their calendars, they use the book that I made to double check, because um, I did it with a whole Excel file. Um, and last but not least, this makes this trip um, this makes me think a lot about what Lama Ganchen used to say all the time, which that that things are secret, as until they're not secret, and so it's really important to open them up. Um, I also had an opportunity to meet His Holiness the Panchen Lama, and there were two very brief moments, but beautiful. And I brought for you as gift this the protection string from the Panchen Lama, because in our lineage, when we look at the the line of transmission from the Panchen Lama, is one of the most important. I don't want to go on too long. I like to just say how wonderful it is to be together, not just to be just here together in this moment, but how beautiful to think about what we have in front of us. Let's remember we live in a very complex time where there's more and more extremists, more there's extreme materialism. Crazy things, crazy things are happening. So much anger and hatred, things really that unnameable. But that makes what we're doing here even more important. But let's do it with a pure intention, keeping clarity that we're here to serve humanity in the middle of everything that we're living. We want to dedicate ourselves to the development of these qualities and not abandon our road in face of any small difficulty that we face. And this is the photo. Did you know that book, Where's Wally? So let's try to find where's Lama in this photograph. This is the photo of the forum participants, and I put it on the table, and I invite you to try to find me. Just so let's recite our dedications. You can all come to receive the string, the dedication string from the Panchen Lama, and we'll have many other occasions to talk very soon. Um, um, Very soon, I'll tell you when we will be able to go to Tibet next year, and it's very important. This time, it was very important to go with a very small number, but we need to look at the period a little bit. But very soon, we'll tell you when we'll be able to go.
Losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munse tatu ne gyurchi kewa kuntu yanda lamadan drame cheki pela longche ching sadan lamgi yunte rabzone dorje changi kopa nyurtob Sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin. Ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumki chingilo. Kuncho sumki ngodrubut sol. Kuncho sumki Tashi.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Have a very good day.
Una cosettina dico già,